just want to start out by saying I want to make sure everybody feels safe here. I know we have a broad view of different opinions, and maybe you agree with the policy, you don't agree, whatever. I just want to make sure everybody feels safe and they feel respected. So please be cognizant of that as you're sharing your opinions. Also, we have a statement which is really awesome. We know somebody who is involved in ROTC on campus, Army ROTC, who identifies as a lesbian. We'll kind of talk about that. A lot of us know who this person is, and she has asked us to keep her anonymous, and we're trying to do that because we all know her name as well, or a lot of people do. So please just keep anything you hear about this, if you hear whisperings, like you know who it is or whatever, just please keep that confidential and try not to use your name, because we do know who she is. We just really want to respect her. And thank her for sharing with us her experience so far. We're going to begin by reading like her testimony and kind of reflecting on that, because she says some really cool things. And then we'll kind of talk about like whether you want to talk about the policy or just kind of talk about the story. I've got some stats too. I don't know how people like stats or what people are interested in knowing, but we'll kind of see where the discussion takes us. And feel free during the story to kind of wave your hand and say, like, wait, can we talk about that for a second? Or what did maybe she mean by that or something? The e-board is also going to pass around. We're going to try to kind of read it that way so you can kind of hear different voices so you don't get tired of me talking the whole time. She says, have you ever watched movies starring great heroes like James Bond or Superman? What if I told you I had something in common with these daring, brave figures? You probably wouldn't believe me at first. But I also have a secret identity, and I wear fun costumes to kick butt in. That's right. I'm a lesbian, and I'm in the Army. By day, I'm writing operation orders, taking care of my subordinates, and participating in PT, which is physical training. But by night, I get to be me. I get to take off my uniform and become the real me. The me that doesn't have to watch what she says or wear a poker face, for those of you who like Lady Gaga. It is unbelievably taxing to carry this secret around and pretend 5 days out of the week that I'm something I'm not. But I pride myself in being incredibly resilient and having a strong sense of duty and respect. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me explain what I do for a living.
Why did I join the ROTC military branch? So basically, ROTC is a cool acronym, but it doesn't really mean anything to your ears, probably. ROTC stands for Reserve Officer Training Corps. It technically means I am going to officer school whilst getting a normal college degree as well. The Army pays for my tuition, books, fees, and in return, I give them my time, education, and 8 years of my life after college. Ideally, ROTC is a 4-year program. The first 2 years, you basically just train, get orders, and follow your superiors. It's pretty simple. I joined my sophomore year, so I skipped a year of that crap. The most important and most stressful year is the junior year. The juniors are in charge of running the show, so to speak. I am currently in the midst of my junior year, and let me tell you, I am the most high-strung person you'll meet Monday through Friday. My responsibilities change every 3 weeks based on a rotation of leadership positions. Right now, I am a squad leader, and it is my job to directly interact with my soldiers and take care of their needs. I disseminate information for training, hold squad nights to help my soldiers improve their domain knowledge, but then the next following rotation, my job is completely different. I could be a company commander and organize everything the battalion does for 3 weeks. Or I could be nothing and just coast. It's a pretty demanding schedule, and I get to do all that plus my classes. I know that I made that program sound very alluring. Anyone want to join? Just kidding. But you're probably wondering why the hell I joined if I knew it was going to be that bad. Well, I joined for a number of reasons. There are the petty ones, like instant employment and scholarship. But I always wanted to help people that were in far greater need than I was. I know it sounds incredibly cheesy and cliche, but I figure if I can affect one person's life, just one, then my life hasn't gone to waste. I also wanted a challenge for my life. I'm constantly trying to better myself, and I wanted a challenge that would really make me prove to myself that I can be a leader. And ROTC was the perfect program for me because It constantly pushes me, and it keeps me on my toes. Overall, not a bad program. And at the end of it all, I know that I have served a cause greater than myself. As for a branch, I'm looking into the medical service branch. I'm hoping to serve as a psychologist or therapist or social worker for the United States Army. But my branch will be determined on my grades, physical fitness test score, and my performance at the LDAC, a camp I will attend this summer where my leadership abilities will be assessed and graded. If I perform well, I will most likely get my first preference in branch, so wish me luck. Alright, let's get to the juicy stuff. And this one can't be answered by a man, so we'll go after it.
Oh, there, I just got it. The question is, have you ever had a relationship with a woman while in ROTC? And this is trans. Yes, I have. And let me tell you, I was about 20 times more stressed out than I am now. As a sophomore, I didn't have really much responsibilities with ROTC, so it was easy to have time to date. The hard part was explaining to my fellow cadets why I stopped hanging out with them so much and where I was going. So thus, the system of lies began and my second life started to develop. Also, if I was fighting with my girlfriend, it was incredibly hard to explain to my superior officers why I wasn't on my game and performing poorly in my training and at PT. I would make up more and more lies, and it was just weighing down on me that I had two lives that required tons of energy and time for me. All last year, I was depressed, anxious, and just tired of carrying my second life around. Oops. Sorry. It's okay. You eat the whole. It was especially worse when my girlfriend at the time could not for the life of her understand why I had to spend so much time doing Army things. This lack of understanding was by far the most painful thing to deal with on top of my duties. But on a lighter note, I'm peacefully single right now, and it's great.
How do your family, friends feel about my dual identity? I mentioned before that I'm quite a resilient person, and I pride myself in that. Well, if I'm looking for any support, my family isn't the place to go. I love my family, I would die for them, but they are in denial about my sexuality preference. My mother told me that she thinks I chose to be gay because it's popular and glamorous, so I just don't bring it up or really talk about it. It's sad, but it doesn't bother me so much anymore. My friends, on the other hand, are extremely supportive. My best friend of all time loves me to death, and she thinks it's great that I came out and commends me on having the courage to serve at the same time. I know where to go if I want or need support, but for the most part, I do a decent job of pulling myself up by my bootstrings and getting my head in the game.
Has anyone come out to you in ROTC? Have you come out to anyone in ROTC? I have only had one other person come out to me in ROTC, and he is by far one of the most amazing soldiers I have ever met. If it weren't for him, I'd probably go crazy. We have made it a habit to check up on each other and talk about relationships and Army-related things. When that terrible state news article about Don't Ask, Don't Tell and 2 gay soldiers in Army ROTC came out and caused rumors to float around the battalion, we did our best to cover each other's butts. But I only came out to one other person, and he was the sweetest and most understanding guy I've ever met. I just have a remarkable amount of respect for him, and I know I can trust him because he understands that my life is by no means easy. It's his sympathy and mercy that gives me hope for gays and lesbians in the military.
Okay, so what challenges do you see when you go active? Upon graduation from MSU, I will also commission as a second lieutenant. When I receive my gold bar, I am certain that my personal life will become much more difficult than it is now. Luckily, as an ROTC cadet, I have some choice as to how my future will play out. I can compete for an active duty slot, which is harder to get, but within my reach. This means I'll live on base at my first post and be Army woman all the time. But an alternative is to take a National Guard slot. This means I will do the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year deal. I will drill with my assigned unit and pretty much hold the civilian job. At this point, I am looking to go National Guard because I honestly don't see myself being an active duty type of soldier. But either way I go, I will be presented with challenges for my personal life. For one, if they do repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, I could come out and serve as myself and eliminate my second life. But even if they did repeal it, I probably wouldn't come out here at MSU or MA. The leaders that run in the military are from way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth and homosexuality was a disease, and they carry guns. don't see that faring well. I'm not 100% sure how everyone will feel, but if I choose to be a psychologist, I'm wondering if my patients wouldn't want to talk to me because of my sexual orientation. And losing a chance to help someone because I'm a lesbian puts fear in my heart. And now the whopper problem that is looming over all gays in the military is that gay marriage is only legal in what, like 5 states? Well, I don't know of any posts in Iowa or Massachusetts, but if I'm assigned to a unit in the state that doesn't honor gay marriage, my partner won't be able to share in any of the benefits the Army provides for spouses and children, and our marriage would be invalid. I cannot imagine a more depressing thing than not being able to provide for my partner because I chose to be a leader for my country. It also saddens me that I live in a country that praises its soldiers as heroes and claims to the land of freedom, but even our heroes cannot express themselves. It's devastating to think how bland my future looks with the current laws in place. But all I can do at this point is spread awareness and pray.
What are your hopes for the policies changing? I guess my strongest hope is speed. I know it's unrealistic, but the ball needs to start rolling faster. I am hoping that my commander-in-chief will repeal the policy and legalize gay marriage in all 50 states, preferably in the next 2 weeks. My hope is that one day I can serve as an officer and be open about my sexuality in a comfortable environment. Also, that my partner will receive full benefits from the Army and be recognized as my partner, and not as my roommate or best friend.
Extra note, she wanted us to read these. I would like to thank Kate and Danielle for giving me the chance to share my opinion here at Pride. It is my current goal to spread awareness about Don't Ask, Don't Tell and how it negatively impacts our soldiers. I urge you to write Mike Rogers, who I believe is
It's the representative.
the representative for this area, right? Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Did it wrong. I urge you to write Mike Rogers and start doing what you can to get the word out there. Your soldiers fight for freedom. Help fight for ours. Thank you for all of you who came and listened to my story. I hope that you feel inspired to go out and promote change. And I am single, just to let you know. That's what she wrote. I'm really not. Or a lesbian. Any
She tries to tell us.
so reactions to her story? I mean, any thoughts? Anything that stuck out to you?
I've never thought about the no partner benefits thing before. I mean, I know it's something that people discuss all the time, but I never thought that it would be even harder on a military base.
Actually going on that, I have I have a couple friends who have come out to me that are in the military, and they told me about stories of friends they who served, came out and lost their benefits, and became paid for school and stuff like that.
I thought the convincing the Superman was cool. I've done a life and saving the world, but then the Superman. And it was cool, but like small.
Yeah.
You know.
Kind of like bittersweet. Like
Yeah.
you all of a sudden understood, like maybe what that might be like.
I thought it was interesting that she said she was 20 times more stressed out when she did have a girlfriend. Because normally you think like, oh, that would make you happier or just put you in a better mood. But to think that being in a relationship with someone would add stress because of what you're a part of is kind of a sad reality.
Yeah, just like as I was reading that too, just like not being able to talk to anyone about what's going on except for who's like people and then like mostly being gay is just then like, you know, like if you're upset about something, just having to hide it in front of face because that's why you're upset.
I'm so sorry. Any other reactions? Awesome.
She's talking about how her mom thinks it's just like doesn't believe her. That kind of makes me angry. Like her mom says it's just a glamorous thing. Yeah, being gay is so well, unless your name's Brendan and you're pretty fabulous.
Especially that term glamorous, especially being in the Army. Like
Yeah,
thinking, is that the identity? I mean, that you would want to take on, especially in that type of role. You know, so
Yeah,
that's
same.
kind of interesting that she compared the glamorous lifestyle to being an ROTC and being a lesbian. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
And popular.
It's so popular. Everybody wants to be gay.
Other than the gay circle, it's not
Popular.
My my mom said that to me, and she was just like, I'm just worried about what you see in the media, that kids just, I think just influence because everyone's doing it. And I'm like, Mom, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not cool to be gay. Like,
What cool figures are there in mainstream media except for maybe Willie Grace kind of a
well,
little bit?
like celebrities that,
Like Katy
like
Perry.
Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
But still, saying everyone is gay.
Yeah.
Right.
But even so, it's viewed as
Everybody is.
Gay, whoa.
I'm just saying.
There weren't gay people back then.
Oh yeah, back then.
There weren't any at all.
Just like there's, currently no gay people serving in the military now.
There actually aren't. Or
That's the
maybe
thing
are,
that's
yeah.
funny, that, reading, I was reading an article about what they thought about, killing donuts for punishment. But that was the main things that people seem to have this idea that suddenly, niggas are gonna flock to the army. I'm like, there's already people that are gay serving in the military. It's not really gonna change much, so it just won't be.
The people who want to be in the army are in the army.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to repeal the laws and everyone in this room is going to go running for the army.
There would be an increase in numbers because then people who didn't want to serve earlier would choose to serve.
They're saying there would scary.
Yeah, I don't
I doubt it would be they say everyone for pride is going to the army now.
Yeah, no, they
That
said,
was a factor.
That's what Obama was.
yeah, they said that there would be a mild increase in numbers from research I did, but they also said that the harassment rates may go up. And so that's something that they were talking about how to deal with that if they reform the policy. How would it affect those individuals in maybe not a policy way now, but more in identity within still coming out?
What kind of harassment are you talking about? Harassment of gays of all the straight people in the shower, or of the people harassing the gays?
Wait, I'm confused.
Who's being harassed?
The gays harassed. No,
Actually,
there's
they're concerned about both.
right, yeah,
One of
yeah.
the things that they're objecting to actually on the line of the shower thing
Yeah.
is, for some reason, this is a rude statement, but for some reason straight people seem to be kind of hung up, or at least the ones concerned about this issue, about gay people being in the showers. Like, we can't control ourselves.
Well,
that's one of the
that's- yeah.
concerns that they have, and that having people out would ruin the camaraderie of the group, especially with situations like showering, and that they wouldn't have a way to solve it without it being labeled segregation by groups like these.
Right, and even in basic training they separate the men and the women, or in when they're deployed, a lot of times they separate the men and the women, and so one of the concerns is, and
How would they separate?
how would they
gender?
separate with gender or with sexual orientation? And there's a
Segregate everything. It always works well.
yeah.
But equal.
So that's a concern, and also you're not allowed to. I don't know if you've seen in the media lately. In CNN, they came out with a woman who had gotten pregnant while she was in, I think Afghanistan, deployed by another soldier, and it's supposed to be illegal in the military to have sex with, obviously, with other soldiers while you're deployed. And so their argument, as asinine as this is that all gay people just want to have sex all the time because they'll be in the same barracks, or you know what I mean, and and there's no pregnancy which could result from that, so there's no evidence, and it's like, what? What?
But then nobody has to leave active duty.
Well, that's what we use pregnancy for.
Evidence, right? So anyway,
And I mean, the problem that they have with people having sex while being deployed isn't the whole distraction thing. I doubt that's the problem. They just don't want to have to pay for the pregnancy.
well, I think there's
like
there's
all that
additional
problem.
restrictions.
Well,
yeah.
are you supposed to? I feel like you're not supposed to have romantic attachments that have, unless maybe you're already married, then you both get deployed to the same spot or something.
I
I don't know. I would feel like the military wouldn't even be okay with romantic relationships.
Right.
Or something.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's what they're saying. Yeah.
You're not,
But there's
I mean,
yeah.
sex and romantic relationships can't be different. Just,
Right.
aren't you not, technically, it's a breaking the code of the uniform if you even show, PDA?
While you're in
when you're in
while you're
uniform.
in
I thought the rules were just about subordinates and things.
That's stateside. I mean, they were talking about
Oh,
deployment,
okay.
which is different.
And the uniform is just Christy. Everything you can't do in it.
I just, going back to the whole, the influx, I mean, I'm gonna rely on stereotypes a little bit here, but I just don't know that many gay people that want to join the military.
So I don't see a lot of people going like, yes, they repealed it, I can finally join the military. I'm sure there's people out there that will, but I don't think it, like you guys said, it's going to be like a huge influx. And also, I don't really see too many people that are already serving coming out. I think most of them are still going to keep it a secret.
Well, I think because, like she mentioned, like you still have, like, you know, almost all your superiors are going to be like older generations. I read somewhere that most people that are like, you know, younger, our generation that are just starting to serve are more okay with it. But it's like the older people that are people in charge of you that are going to be really like negative, and that's kind of like the attitude that's passed down then to the ranks.
Well, then I think where the real disciplinary mechanism needs to be is right up at the top, and I think Secretary of Defense Gates said it pretty well when he agreed that the Don't Ask, Don't Tell should be repealed. He said it's going to be my people that we have to really deal with here. And the zero tolerance thing that, you know, seems to apply in the military to the lowest levels needs to apply right from the beginning to the officers and to the deskies in the Pentagon and everyone in between. And I think that violations of whatever anti-discrimination policy that comes out of a repeal needs to be very public and very, very harshly dealt with.
Well, the only thing is, like, I don't have this space, so I really can't back up what I'm saying, but from what it seems to me, there seems to be a fair bit of harassment towards women in the military that just either doesn't get reported or is covered up, and to me this shows the camaraderie mentality that seems to pervade the military that I think would kind of lead to a very unsuccessful enforcement of these rules.
A series of taxes.
Yeah, like, you know, if a group of people decide that they don't like someone, you know, even if other soldiers in their platoon or their officer disagree with it, they might not necessarily say anything because, you know, it's all about loyalty. And you just don't report, you know. The don't tell is pretty ingrained.
There's definitely like a prevalence of masculinity and what does that mean, and that kind of also goes into the women issue, you know, as well as the homosexual issue. So, yeah, the Department of Defense recently, in the last 5 years, came out with this new position for social workers, actually, something I was looking into. But there's, at every base, American base, they're coming out with a sexual assault coordinator position for each base, each military post or base, because of some of these issues. And I think harassment also falls in their category of some of these issues to talk about to a person who you report to and who kind of does seminars, does trainings, does counseling, all those things, education. So something to kind of keep in mind for the future. Somebody else?
I was going to say, my friend just wrote a paper on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So, like, I don't know how much research she did, but, like, a little bit. And she said there was a really large amount of women being raped by the men, which I'd never heard about that before. And I was really surprised.
I'm in a James Madison class, sexual politics, and we've been discussing it a bit. And I don't remember the statistics because I wasn't paying attention. But beyond that, yeah, so like the rape issues within the military are really common, which really points at kind of a masculinity complex. And it also makes me wonder if really like the rights for homosexuals is the first thing we need to be fighting for within the military. Like generally speaking, it's women's rights and then gay rights as far as timeline, a historical timeline. So if we need to catch the military up, it seems like we have more to do than just don't ask, don't tell.
I feel like repealing it though would kind of challenge the sort of gender structure that they have in the military by saying it's okay to like have a different like sexual identity and something that's tied to gender a lot too. So I feel like by repealing this, then it's going to open up a discussion about, you know, like masculinity in the military and what it means to have this sort of identity and what is the military identity sort of thing, I think.
Well, and the other thing is, with it being such a controversial issue, people will be paying very strict attention to how it goes down, and so I don't know. I feel like that could also lead to better things for the women who need to report things or who need to. I don't know. So I forgot my point. It's fine.
That was kind of one of the things that came up in 1954, I believe. President Truman desegregated the military. That was the first time blacks and whites were allowed to fight together, which was kind of a monumental moment for the U.S. And, you know, there was a lot of upheaval about that, obviously across the country in various places in schools and whatever, but the military was one of the first places to do that. And now they say that the military is one of the most integrated jobs and places that people can go in terms of race. People from all different races serve in the military, and it's one of the most integrated. So with you know, fighting different, you know, like you were talking about, different kind of social battles, the military reforming that kind of pushed it further. You know what I mean? Saying like, people from all different races are serving, and it's now one of the most integrated places, you know, to work or to be a part of in terms of racial diversity. So I wonder, you know, just this is just me wondering if that would help push the issue further, you know, in terms of gender, in terms of particularly homosexuality in the military. Well, I have some stats here that kind of go along with, just to kind of throw out there that I thought were interesting. And I wrote a paper on this. This is all research, but I don't know how much people are really into research or more into discussion, but I thought I'd throw some of these out here. There was a poll taken in 2007 that revealed that the general public, so non-military personnel, stated that there was 58 to 79% of people, and this was kind of on a continuum, so they decided it was 58 to 79, which is strange to me to have a percentage like that, but of people, including conservatives or people who identify as Republicans, believe that LGBT people should be allowed to serve openly in the military. So I thought that was pretty encouraging. And that's been pretty across the board, actually. And so where you're finding resilient or kind of resistance is in the military culture and kind of that politician culture, like you spoke of. And something else I thought was interesting in terms of economics, because I know that's kind of something that we talk about in terms of whether you agree or disagree with the policy, it's kind of a workers' rights issue. You know, it's discrimination. You know, so but they were saying that they have discharged since 1994, when President Clinton passed and his administration passed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. 1,000 soldiers per year are discharged from the service. So on average, 1,000 a year.
Is that like dishonorably discharged? Or honorably?
I believe it's honorably.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm under the impression that it's honorably.
I think so too. I think it is unless it's paired with something else, like a conduct issue, right. Or like then it becomes dishonorable. Is how I understand it. Mm-hmm. Although I don't think that's made clear in a lot of the research I've done, which is another point. Right, problematic in it.
So do they keep all their rights if they're honorably discharged, or I mean not like rights, but like all the benefits, like VA hospital and stuff like that? Like, do they get all that still, or? That
depends on how long you serve. So if you go in and serve a year and you're heterosexual or homosexual and you get discharged honorably, you wouldn't get it. Okay. You wouldn't get some unless you were injured or unless you qualified for some other illness that qualified you. It's based off of something different. Okay. Unless you were dishonorable and you wouldn't get some of those things. I know it's kind of confusing.
Does it occur ever where, like, I mean, because you're saying that it's even dishonorably or honorably discharged, but do you think it happens where they'll make the decision to kind of like budget and turn into dishonorably discharged because of discrimination? Like, because that's what
I wouldn't doubt that, but I haven't done research necessarily on that. I mean, I don't know how I would find it, right? Yeah, I know. But
I mean,
I wouldn't doubt that.
If you want to go with popular media, yes, I am citing this, the L word. When, what's her bucket that I can't remember the name of? Tasha. What was she? Was she honorably or dishonorably discharged? Because they were pretty harsh in all of the investigation. Like, they ripped into every aspect of her life.
Invasive. Yeah.
And, like, in the end of it, she did the whole, well, F you, I'm gay, and I love the person I'm with kind of thing. But she was discharged in some way. I can't remember. It's like one of the 5 episodes I've seen. But, no. In media, I mean, they make it into a very harsh situation, and I don't know if that's the case or not, because I haven't lived it, but it's got to be coming from somewhere.
From my understanding, the investigation, if there's some sort of suspicion or you come out or something. From my understanding, it is invasive. But
I think it can go either way to like a really exaggerated extent because I watched this thing. I watched it on YouTube, but it was on like CNN or NBC, and it was a special on this guy who was gay and was like coming out and talking about don't ask, don't tell and everything. And he was saying in the past someone had given his like superior officer a video of him on vacation like kissing his boyfriend when they were like driving in a car, and his officer was like, oh no, this doesn't show you're gay, you can keep serving, and just like completely ignored it. So I think there are like some people who are
Who your officers?
yeah, a lot.
That
what?
Lieutenant
Dan Choi?
Dan Choi.
It wasn't him.
No, it was
You're in public.
It was blonde.
There are. I've heard that from a lot of people. There are. It's really up to like kind of your commanding officer. I mean, to a degree, they have to follow policy, and they'll tell you they'll follow policy. But who doesn't turn a blind eye if their value system maybe doesn't match the policy, or it kind of depends on the person. But I've heard that as well. I actually work at the VA 2 days a week for my internship for social work, and I work with veterans who are severely and chronically mentally ill. But I have about 3 on my caseload who identify as homosexual, which I think is interesting. And they said they didn't come out till after, way after they were out. So, it happens, that's for sure. And they have told me, too, that they kind of fooled around in the military a little bit, and that's where they were exploring their identity, their sexual identity. And they didn't really say much more about that, but kind of interesting, you know, to hear those perspectives as well. I was just going to throw out, like, economic numbers in terms of, you know, I never really thought about this, like how much money is being lost because of this discharge in terms of our country, in terms of your tax dollars, in terms of, you know. But they're saying a conservative estimate of the cost is that from 1994 to 2003, we have lost $95 million because of discharging soldiers based on this one policy. A more liberal estimate in terms of, you know, basic training, all the things that are involved in that cost us money as taxpayers, is $363.8 million. So if you think about that, that's a lot. And what?
How does that cost money? Is it because it costs money for like the hearing on the discharge? Is that why it costs us money?
They're saying like in dollars spent training. So say it costs us a lot of money to train pilots. They're saying very skilled. They're discharging officers, skilled workers, people who know like Arabic, who they've paid for to go travel.
Okay, so it's more
skilled.
On them.
Which you don't have to use to replace them.
Right, because they're not taking into consideration like, oh, this person doesn't have a college degree. I mean, everybody's got skills that they were trained to do, I guess. And so they've spent, you know, so like our tax dollars paid for our person who wrote the testimony. Say she goes in, we paid for college, right? She serves, she comes out, and we discharge her. That's money lost. Skills learned, especially they said a lot of special skills. You know, if you know Arabic, pilots, very specific things. They're not even looking at that. They're saying, I don't care. You know what I mean? What your skill is or what your level of education is. You have a master's, you have a PhD. That's nice. You know, so that's frustrating, I think, because you know, if you're just looking at it from economics, whether you believe in the policy or not, that's frustrating.
I was going to say, there's a book called Unfriendly Fire, and it's a really good book, and it's about everything. Like, I watched the guy because he was on The Daily Show, and I checked out the book. Anyway, it's like, if you want to read a book about it, that's a really good one. I forgot who the author is, but anyway, just go to the library and check it out. Because it has all those stats in it, and it's like a really good
I was reading online a few months ago, it was a while ago, but I forget all of the countries, but I believe it's Canada, Israel, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany maybe that have allowed for homosexuals to serve openly. I forget, like I said, all the countries that have allowed that. But in the United Kingdom, they have like a soldier magazine, and they featured a homosexual soldier on the cover. He was like the main story, and from what he was saying, it was no big deal like when he came out, like he didn't even come out, like they just knew, and they were like, okay, like we're gonna buy you a beer now, and so I think it's really interesting to look at other countries not really having issues with with allowing homosexuals to serve openly, but I also think like the culture is different because we're a lot more conservative than all those countries, so it's just an interesting comparison.
Other thoughts in general?
Let's all move to Canada. Healthcare. They have a queen.
It's like 2 hours
They
away.
They have silly money.
But isn't this the only situation where it's legally acceptable to fire a person or like discharge them because of their sexual orientation?
Not the only.
It's determined by state in most cases. In some,
In North
yeah,
Carolina,
in Michigan it is illegal.
In North Carolina, they have a no-fault firing law where you don't even have to tell them why you're firing them. You can fire them.
And I mean, you can always find ways around it, but in not all of the states protect.
Okay.
I think it's like 29 states, it's still legal.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, if you can prove that they fired you because of something, then you could get, like, recompensated or something, but it's really hard to prove in a lot of cases.
Okay.
And we're still fighting on that same front for transgender rights in the workplace. Michigan is actually a pioneer in that, I figure. Granholm passed a thing about how transgender people deserved the ability to not be fired for their gender changing in any way. And I mean, go Granholm. Some people matter, but
She's doing one thing.
She's Canadian too.
and she's Canadian.
She's Canadian.
It makes sense now. Yeah.
Any other thoughts about this, or reactions, or to the story, or to like stats, or anything like you guys think about in your own personal lives, or?
I actually have a question, because I know people talk a lot about, well, why isn't Obama getting it over with and getting rid of it? And I've tried, like, what's the mechanism to get rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Because it isn't just him signing a thing that says it's gone now, right?
I think
is it? Because I've heard that it is just
an executive order.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It is, but I think they're looking at what are the ramifications of that. I mean, I think it is as easy. Sure, anything's as easy as
because I've heard
signing a piece
as
of paper.
much between, well, it's just signing the executive order versus he has to do something with Congress, and I've heard several different stories, and I was wondering what the actual answer is.
Do you guys have answers to
they're saying a
that?
lot of them. Even like Dick Cheney is saying repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Well, he is a lesbian.
One round is to
Change the president.
put a stop on it, or more round, moratorium, thank you. That's what I asked. And that would
Oh, you took
stop
this one. Oh, they're pointing at me.
discharges while they're like figuring out and doing their study on it, but most people, like especially people who are in the military, don't want that because it would put a gray area. So like, what if the repeal doesn't go through, and then the people who came out during that time period would be at risk. So they just, most of them want to go through Congress and make a law.
Any other thoughts on that, or things you've heard in the media?
Well, I'm trying to remember, I think it might have been Congress, or Joint Chiefs of Staff, or someone, I think there was a report, like a huge report that was done years ago looking into this issue that recommended repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, like from a long time ago. But I forget, I don't know if you know anything about that.
I mean, Clinton he put a Band-Aid basically on it, and that was Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I don't know if it was since then, like if Bush looked at it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure congressmen have brought this up from time to time, but the laws, Clinton's the one who kind of said, well, let's make it more gray, because he didn't want to, I don't think he wanted to push it all the way through, but he also didn't want to say no, so this was like a compromise, as far as I understand it.
I think something that we as a community have to really worry about is if indeed Don't Ask, Don't Tell is repealed in the military, what sorts of protections extend to those who serve private sector contractors like Blackwater? because the private sector heads of those organizations, I'm sorry to say, are terribly discriminatory generally. And how are they going to protect their own employees if they don't believe that those employees deserve protections?
Well, I think it's different because it's like, it's basically a private business. So they operate under whatever law. I mean, kind of, it's like basically like a Kmart in a way as far as how they're going to hire and fire people, which I have a huge issue with the private sector military. That's a whole ballgame, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I guess it would have like something to do with that, but I just don't think that this policy would really change a lot in that aspect.
No, I don't think it'll.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll necessarily change anything, but I think that it would be a drastic omission if the legislation for this policy didn't include something that covers those sorts of service providers, regardless of what you think about them. Which, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
If they're operating overseas, where are they, like, are the laws based on where they're based?
No, it's U.S.
Technically, isn't it where the company is traded, stock-wise? Like, company.
I mean,
like these private sector parts of the military.
Oh, did you mean
it's-
U.S.
Yeah.
or private?
The private.
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like
I don't know much
It's a
about
gray
that.
area.
Yeah.
It's where you pay taxes to. Like,
Oh,
Yeah,
I guess that would be going through that.
yeah.
I was
So-
trying to figure out what the.
Yeah, it all matters if they pay corporate taxes to the U.S.
Awesome to do something.
No, I'm just like pulling my hair.
So pretty.
Well, I think we talked this before, you and I about, like, if they do repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it definitely pushes the marriage equality issue further, because then we get into issues, like that person said about benefits for your partners or spouses. And I also think, like, that if they do repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it will definitely force everyone in the country to reevaluate the issue, and it could potentially pave the way, as it did for racial desegregation. So it could be a positive thing in more ways than just allowing people to circle company.
I'm just gonna say, just along the lines of that, like, I think, it'll help change a lot of people's minds, because, I mean, obviously, I feel kind of like it's obvious saying this, but, I mean, you get all these traditionally, like, conservative white men in the military, and, I mean, the military culture, and it's like, if someone were to come out that they didn't even think was gay, it's like, oh, like, I've been serving with this person, and I consider them like a brother, and I think it would help change a lot of people's minds.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
What is, I mean, because, like, I definitely, yeah, it seems positive, why don't we do it, but, like, what are some things that people are saying as far as, like, what are the potential negative things that would happen, like, what's the backlash, I guess, that people are thinking could potentially happen from it?
I mean, you always hear like occasionally stuff like that about like people who like are suspected of being gay and stuff like that, and like they just get like beat up by their entire like troop, and they just get sexually, or not sexually harassed, but just harassed. And I mean, there is negative backlash to people that they think are gay, and this is just for like when they think they're gay. Like, I mean, if they come out as gay, like who knows like what might happen. But I mean, that's not obviously that's not gonna be with everybody. So I mean, like it's one of those who knows.
And also it's that, oh my gosh, they're gonna have sex all the time.
Because that's all the gays think about.
That's all I
And gays are joining the military just so that they can go into the showers.
I'm gonna go through.
What do you guys
basics.
think? What are some other possibly negative effects? Playing kind of devil's advocate here.
Well, I was just gonna say why it wasn't pushed forward earlier, because it's not, quote, important. Like, healthcare is a big thing. Obama doesn't do something about that. No one seems important.
I think that's a big argument for it right now, and I think, I mean, even when we watched that Equality March speech by Lady Gaga, she said, "Repeal." Didn't she say, "Repeal, don't ask, don't tell"? Do you hear me, Obama? And I think that's kind of like what some people are saying like we want to repeal it. The administration is saying it's on our agenda, but if we don't figure out this healthcare crisis and the economic crisis first, you're not going to respect us for doing you know, X, Y, and Z afterwards at all. So I think that's really valid. That's what a lot of people are saying, like, it's there, but what do we do? Our hands are kind of tied right now with these other two situations that are, you know.
And the other two situations are going to affect the country, however sad this is, a whole lot more than Don't Ask, Don't Tell being repealed. Like right now, the fact that we are over $1 trillion in debt is a really big problem, and this healthcare thing is probably going to push us further in debt. But, I mean, Don't Ask, Don't Tell will save us $10 million a year.
It'll be more symbolic.
Like, well, and it will be symbolic, but it's not what could be seen as pressing.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I feel like its effects will be symbolic more than like, I mean, there will be substantial like benefits, but like I think it'll be more just a slow social acknowledgement of gay rights.
Yeah,
Is more
and
what it is.
so I mean, why would it be important to those conservative people who don't understand that this is incredibly repressive? The important thing right now is making sure that the common man can eat, not that a person can talk about their sexuality, quote unquote, in the dog hour. Like,
Did you have a comment too?
Yeah, well,
Sorry, not
yeah, you also have to consider that President Obama will be running for re-election, so doing things like repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, great as it is, will polarize voters, whereas doing things like solving economic problems may polarize some, but for the most part, he could, if he does it well, be painted as a savior, which is only going to like gain like more electoral votes in the end. So as he as the end of this term comes up, it's going to be less likely that he would act on Don't Ask, Don't Tell because he wants to be in the White House for 4 more years. I think that probably trumps his passion for gay rights.
Well, in a way, maybe it'd be strategic though, because like, okay, so if he were to hold off on Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but if he does like do enough with the economy and gets reelected, then he has 4 more years to actually like repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because people have enough faith that he fixed the bigger problems first, and they're like, well, I guess you don't even have an idea about this, we should go along with this sort of thing.
Did he say he did it by this?
I feel like he did.
He always pushes it back.
He mentioned it in the State of the Union, but what is that really going to mean?
He mentioned a lot in the State of the Union.
Yeah, he mentioned
Very
a whole lot more
great
than
things,
you
but
can do in 4 years. In the State
yeah,
of the Union.
create green jobs and
Unless you
reduce
really are super
demand.
which they have seen it. Which is kind of creepy because he's just
That's why I like hate just like it's just like the American political system in general is like, okay, like we're gonna try and get what's our main goal like for the first 4 years? Set ourselves up so that we can get in for the next 4 years. And then we do stuff. And it's like it's just I don't know, it makes me kinda angry. Yeah, exactly.
Let's just give him a lecture.
Right.
Yeah,
Something
like,
corrupt,
but
you don't want
just like
you don't want that.
even just like one
6
term,
or 8.
like for president.
I
Like then you
One 8-year term.
not 8 years, but I mean like I don't know, just like because then you're not worried about re-election.
Yeah, but
by the end of 8 years, everyone should just like a really, really good guy.
Yeah, that's what we need. I did have a question. Do you know if men and women serve equally on the front line?
No.
Because one of the things I've heard is an argument against that, and that's also being used against Don't Ask, Don't Tell, is, you know, the entire organization of the military is based on a chain of command. You follow the orders of your superior no matter what. Your judgment doesn't matter because your superior is smarter. Or even if he's not, he's your superior. So one of the things I've heard is, should women serve with men? You know, instincts might prevail to, if the leader says move on, and male soldiers don't want to leave a comrade that in their head they feel like they need to go help. They're worried about the cohesion of a unit being stifled, and this is one of the arguments being applied to gays in the military, because you know, you have a group of men, and you have a homosexual in there. What if he develops feelings for another member? He certainly might not act on it, but, I mean, at least romantically, but in the lines of battle, when the guy that he has affection towards gets hit and he's down, but the superior says, push on, one of the arguments is he might decide to disobey orders. I'm not saying this is the best argument against it. I'm saying this is something that I've read, and I do think has maybe grains of truth. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on this.
I know there's also a long history of people doing that just for their friends.
Yeah.
Like, and you sort of have to make friends or you would go sort of nuts out there.
Yeah, but you could argue the romantic feelings are.
Well, what about bromances?
Yeah, I was gonna say, girl feelings are strong.
I learned about that this year. I have a couple guy friends who always get dinner at Subway on Mondays, no matter what. If one of them is sick, they go, and like they drag each other there. I mean, bromances are pretty impressive, and when girls call each other sisters, like, don't get in the way because it's scary. There's hair pulling, but like.
I mean, I was gonna say, I think before stuff, like, he actually did, like, disobey
I mean, how many times have we disobeyed our parents when one of our friends really needed our help? Like, I know that I got grounded at least once every couple months because I would go out and do something stupid because my friends needed me. Like,
I mean, hopefully, after years of training in the military, they beat that out.
well, yeah, you think if you were trained properly, you would be able to get beyond that.
But children.
But one of the things
Wow, you two. Wow.
This is why
philosophies of the military.
This is why we're friends. Like the superior is like, okay, well, anybody who actually goes after this person is going to die. Like, I don't know, like specific military situations. I don't play any army games or anything like that. But
I think it's like if they do a direct order, they would go back.
Yeah.
That's when you get into the deep shit.
Yeah, to me, well, I mean, I don't really think things like this happen. It's not like we're a nom anymore, but like. It could, like,
I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule, but I'm sure it happens.
Well, I mean, if you're a Purple Heart recipient and you go back to save a guy, and you don't get killed, and you don't get him killed, and you don't get the rest of the people in your squad killed, then inevitably you're going to get another Purple Heart. But if somebody gets hurt, then you'd be in trouble.
Any like final thoughts, and then I thought, you know, if people want to split up and talk into like their own groups or discussions or kind of, I mean, it's sometimes hard to talk about some of these issues in a large group, but any final kind of wrap up kind of thing?
I mean, I guess like another thing to add is like the gays that would be serving in the military, I'm guessing would be, you know, like the macho, like you can't even tell they're gay type people. Like, you know, just like.
Well, they're pretty macho.
Kate's ALS is gonna just take everyone down.
Yeah, Ben in the military.
Your outfit is fabulous. I know.
This does nothing to my hair.
God, it's ruining my nails.
I mean, I know I'm doing
This food is just awful for my skin.
Any other kind of final thoughts?
I was just gonna go off that. Like, I agree. Like, what I was kind of trying to say earlier was that, like I think like the gays that want to be in the military are in the military right now, for the most part. You know, I'm sure there's people that would go out and join if they could serve openly, but I think for the most part, they're already there. You know, and so people just aren't being too rational.
Honestly, would be serving openly even be the best idea? I mean, maybe a few years down, maybe we need a few people to, you know, play the Rosa Parks and
but
take one for the team.
It gives them the option.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just nice. It's
nice.
They deserve the option.
Because I mean, I'm sure like, you know, some people are in units that are like very like open and accepting, and you know, like they could easily just do that and like not have to live the double life. But obviously, like like if you're like a bunch of rednecks, like kill those first.
It gives them the right to like make the
People with
decision.
Remington bolt action rifles.
They can just make the decision for themselves.
Seeing how dinosaurs.
And, by the way, I got a text from our secret person majigama thing. What's a bucket? I got a text from our ROTC chick, and she wanted to say thank you again for letting her speak through us, and that it really meant a lot to her, and she was super, super excited about seeing the video, aka I think I'm supposed to send that tonight.
Everyone say hi.
She was
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you again for allowing us to videotape this so that she can see it. I know it'll mean a ton to her, because she's like that, and she's always been very open about how much the military means to her, even though it makes her wake up at ungodly hours, and then she has to go to a 3-hour class with me. So, yeah, that was always fun. So, thank you.
And I think in closing, I just wanted to kind of read what I already read it, but one statement stuck out to me, and I thought it was a really good closing statement, and then I'll let you guys talk amongst yourselves or whatever, hang out, but I just think it really meant a lot that she said, your soldiers fight for freedom, help fight for ours. And I just thought that's really important to think about. I mean, whether you believe in the rights or not, you know, people are fighting for our rights all the time as well, so whether you agree or disagree with certain things, the war, whatever, you know, it's happening, and this issue is happening, and it's pressing forward, and I just encourage you guys to learn more about what you can do. Maybe it's write to Mike Rogers, maybe it's just read a story on CNN, have a conversation maybe with somebody about it. Just the little things I think go a long way. So keep talking about it. It's not going to go away.